Hi, everybody. Sorry. Wow. Am I okay, Trevor? All right, thank you. The Green Scene Environmental Club here at UROC and the Sustainability Office at UW-Whitewater welcome you tonight to our evening together, Finding Inspiration in Wisconsin Parks and Trails. A lot of positive energy here, and a lot of you have been very instrumental, I know, in greening up the earth, for sure. Thanks a lot for coming, and a great thanks to the folks that have a table out there and for all the things that we can enjoy. And the tables will be there for you to visit after the show here is over. I'm Bob McAllister, Professor Emeritus in Geography, Geology, and Environment. And what that means is I've been here a long time. Realizing that we're part of nature and need to care for our natural environment can be awakened simply by walking into nature. As we walk those steps, it helps lighten our personal load. It gives us a sense of wonder of how we fit into it all. And it feels good, doesn't it? Maryam Enterline and Dennis James, they're both trailblazers. They build trails and paths into nature in different but complementary ways to make nature available to everybody. And their stories of their trailblazing, I'm betting, will give us all a glow of inspiration. To introduce Maryam is Talia and Evenhoven. She's a terrific UROC student and a member of the Green Scene.
Okay, hi. Then I'm here to introduce Maryam Enterline. So Maryam Enterline grew up in Eau Claire and has lived in Janesville since 2012 when she earned her bachelor's in psychology and sociology from UW-Whitewater. Her love for nature blossomed as a child, especially in the wilds of Lake Superior's Apostle Islands National Lakeshore, which she explored across each season. And that was just the beginning. As an adult, she explored every Wisconsin state park, discovering each park's wonderfully unique natural features. And as a woman of color, Maryam understands the importance of being present and visible in each of these natural spaces. She hopes her presence there inspires the current and future generations to get outside and so that these wonderful natural spaces rightfully belong to everyone. And when she's not fundraising for UW-Whitewater as a major gift officer, you'll find her relaxing with her husband and 3 cats, revisiting her favorite state parks, advocating for voting with the Janesville League of Women Voters, and preserving Janesville's historic district on the city's historic commission. So please welcome Maryam Enterline.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for being here on this beautiful day, and I'm sorry you have to be here to watch me, but thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Last time I did something like this, it was a crappy day in January, and so I apologize for making people come out in the crappy weather. So now I'm apologizing that you have to be inside in the beautiful weather. So again, thank you very much for being here. So again, my name is Maryam Enterline. That's been here in Janesville, like she said, for about a little over 11 years and loved it, and went on a journey about late 2014 through 2017, traveling to all the Wisconsin state parks. So I'll kind of narrate some of this. My talk isn't very formal. I'm not a very formal person. So hopefully we'll have some laughs and we'll have a good time and get you inspired this evening to do your own state park crawl. State park crawl, if anyone's familiar, there's usually like a term like a bar crawl. So we kind of played off of that, a state park crawl. We did also tour some breweries. We kind of did, you know, you do hiking and do all that, and then there's a brewery around the corner, right? So we also did that. So thank you for being here again. All right, so my background a little bit, as was in the description. I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, but also in rural Gilman, Wisconsin. Does anyone know where Gilman, Wisconsin is? Like Hocum area? Yeah, okay. So I was kind of blessed to be in both worlds. So I grew up in rural Gilman for a little bit and then moved to the big city of Eau Claire. Here's a picture of me with some of my friends growing up at the National Lakeshore La Apostle Islands. I'm on the would be your right, with my best friend Clarice Cody. I attribute a lot of my experiences with the Apostle Islands to her and her family, who awarded me those opportunities. They have a cabin north of Bayfield, past the Red Cliff Reservation, near Little Sand Bay, and we spent so much of my childhood there. And they happened to own a marina, which is great, in Lake Hocum. So we had a real boat up there and would island hop in the summer. So everyone's like, "Oh, you've been to Madeline Island?" And I was like, "No, but have you been to Raspberry Island and Cat Island and all these other ones?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay." So we had a little bit different experiences. So yes, I'm an alum of UW-Whitewater, a McNair Scholar. My studies focused on gender roles and kind of bunking those gender norms and roles. So I grew up in a single parent household. It was just me and my mom. So I grew up seeing my mom do everything from mowing the lawn to shoveling to getting things fixed around the house. So my research was on kind of how we're defining our gender roles. So that kind of will come into play here. So yeah, there's Maryam. And I think my shirt says rock star. I did make that shirt, by the way. So my inspiration. So I was awarded, my mom was an Army brat, Air Force brat, and she was able to travel when she was in high school. So when I had a couple trips come up during my high school time to England with my choir and Germany. I took German all through middle school and high school. Jawohl, right? She awarded me those trips. She just knew travel was very important and it was inspiration to her, and she was happy to share that with me. So I've had the travel bug. Besides doing the Apostle Islands, I've always had the travel bug, and it's just been something that's important to me. Does anyone know of Rick Steves by chance? All right, woo, Rick Steves. So, huge fan of Rick Steves. May have a tattoo with "Keep on Traveling" on my arm as an inspiration. Actually got to meet him, and we got a picture with him and everything. It was the first time he ever saw some people with a tattoo, so he's real excited. So always been an inspiration to me, especially going back to Europe. So having this travel bug, but as I said before, I am a graduate, right? So I like to travel, but I have a lot of student loans. I just got done, it took me 6 years. I went to 4 UW system schools. It was a journey for time in my life. I ended up at UW-Whitewater. Glad my diploma's from there. But I still wanted to travel, but I also didn't want to have student loans when I'm 50, 60, 70 years old. My husband and I did the Dave Ramsey plan, where we just hunkered down, but knowing that we were hunkering down and just kind of focusing on our debt, you don't go on vacation when you're on debt. You don't go on cruises. You don't go to Cancun or anything fun. So we turned that focus and energy into doing an adventure. So what is it that we could do while getting out of debt, but also traveling? What is that we could do? Well, Wisconsin, that's where we live. And we're like, hey, we have a beautiful state, and we've only seen part of it. I'm kind of from the north, and my husband more from the south. we've had different experiences, so we're like, let's go see the state together. So that's what we decided to do. Again, the driftless areas, the topography of Wisconsin is just so stunning. And again, it's right here in our little state. We're so lucky. So that was an inspiration. And the last and kind of important thing to me personally, along the lines of kind of also the gender roles and things that I studied, was representation in nature. So me being a Black woman, being out in nature and not seeing people who looked like me. Yes, granted, on the previous slide, you see I've got my two friends, Alicia and Chris here, but those were really the only kind of people of color that would be out in nature with me and wasn't all the time. So yeah, it was just important for me to be that person that little girls, little boys see and like, hey, they look like me and they're out here doing the same thing. So with representation in nature, nature's for all, right? Or we want it to be for all. But for it to be for all, we kind of have to go back, and as much as it can be painful to talk about, we have to know where we came from to know where we need to go. So here's a slide here. I'll let you kind of digest it. For the Center of American Progress did a study and used US Census Bureau data. So people of color are more likely than white people to live in an area that is nature deprived. And you can kind of see the breakdowns there. So almost 60%. And obviously, does anyone want to take a stab at why? Anything? Cities, yep. Urban centers. Redlining, gerrymandering, sound familiar? Yeah. So this is kind of where we are, right? Unfortunately. So it's called the nature gap. And so the history of the nature gap, obviously in the United States, we've been systematically segregated and excluded people of color. And that's our history. We just have to acknowledge that and make the future better. So one of these quotes, I was listening to an interview with Emily Ford, who did the hike through the Ice Age Trail, I believe last year, the year before, during the pandemic. She was talking about this, and it was spelled out in a way that I really thought would kind of resonate. So essentially, the United States, the land was stolen from people, so our native people. Then the land was worked by slaves, and then the land was segregated. So when we think of segregation, a lot of people think the swimming pools and the buses and the drinking fountains. It was also national parks. So even when FDR, all the national park things was great, we were still under Jim Crow laws. So nature has kind of been off topic or hasn't been allowed, even though these same people it was robbed from and have been stewards of the land. They were then excluded. So now we're in a time that it's not segregated anymore. So we're kind of at this fruitful time of where do we go from here? How do we get people involved? How do we get people like me out in nature? So this is a big old slide here. I apologize for that. It's a lot of great information. So for example, you see the shirt that I'm wearing. I'm Black and I hike. This was a gift from my best friend during the pandemic. It's from the first group up here called Outdoor Afro. So they are an organization that celebrates and inspires Black connections and leadership in nature. So I've got kind of some information if you want to check it out. I can also send this later in slides as well. Girl Trek is an amazing program. They have a podcast, and it's basically to heal intergenerational trauma and fighting systematic racism. And for them, it's just getting Black women out in their communities. It doesn't have to be directly in like a state park or nature, but just walking around the block for 30 minutes, and that's their focus. Color in the Outdoors is a Wisconsin-based organization working to promote diversity, accessibility, and inclusivity in the outdoors. The Black Indigenous People of Color Birding Club in Wisconsin. Black Folks Camp 2 is a mission to remove the fear, add knowledge, and invite more Black folks to camp with any and everyone. Open the outdoors, which will be on the next slide here. But yeah, so there's people leading the charge, and this is becoming more prevalent since 2020, when we've had some racial upheaval. It's been great to see organizations like this stepping up and being visible. So yeah, and even in Wisconsin here. So not only is it about people of color, but also accessibility. So making sure that our parks are accessible for everyone, no matter what their ability. So they have a program, the DNR has this open the outdoors, and it's providing exceptional outdoor recreation opportunities for people of all abilities around the state. I know they've got different things with like fishing, and even they've got, I believe at some of the state parks with beaches, wheelchair accessible, almost, they kind of, Star Wars fan here, but they kind of look like something in Star Wars where they're like the big treads, basically, that people can be on the beach. It's very, very cool. The Out We Go, which I think I saw some of you pick some of the state park stuff up. That's their huge initiative, giving everyone to improve their health. So again, accessibility and health along those lines. And then for another accessibility thing is every year the DNR will do a fun, free weekend. So it's usually the first week in June, so it's June 3rd and 4th, and they make it free for everyone, so you don't have to have that state park sticker or pay a daily rate to go. So that is another way to make it accessible for all people. So yes, for me, especially, as I talk to a room full of, I would say, mostly white people, it's great. Thank you again for being here. Just being that person that's helpful, treat everyone equally, whenever space you're in, especially in nature. People are gonna be that look like me, and others might seem like I'm not sure what's going on, or they might be confused when they're looking at a sign. So just being friendly, open, ask them questions. Hey, can I help you? It goes a long way, but treating everyone everywhere equal. All right, so back to the state park crawl. So yeah, there's 47 state parks. I was a stickler on state parks in the sense of, I'm not gonna do the rec areas because it doesn't have state park in it. I'm not gonna do the state forests because that's not a state park. So I was very particular in what I ended up doing, and that might be a fault to my own on that, but I just wanted state. It can get very muddled with the terminology. So we did that in 2.5 years. We got out of debt in 4.5 years. So kind of that time frame. So yeah, it was 2.5 years of weekends, doing day trips, camping trips for longer, ones that are further away. So I got this question from Rachel, who interviewed me for the paper. She's like, what was the most memorable part of your trip? I said, well, and then I'm like, okay, Maryam, come on, duh. So at the very last state park, my husband and I went, we weren't husband and wife at the time, my boyfriend and I, where we did our hike at Burnett Island State Park, which is the last one, Cornell, which is near Gilman, Wisconsin, where I grew up. And we got done hiking, and we're kind of in this area, kind of just reflecting like, man, we did it. We did all the state parks. And we're probably in our own heads a little bit, and I'm just looking around, not just, there's probably birds and there's some water. And I turn around, and he is down on one knee. And I said, oh. And I think I literally said, oh, this is happening out loud. I had no idea. So he proposed, and the rest is now history. The best part about that was, I said, where did you have? He's like, I was nervous the entire time. Because, not only obviously to ask the question, but he's like, we went hiking and I had it in my pocket. And he's like, the entire time I was worried that I was gonna fall out or was gonna be gone, so I wouldn't have it at the end. I'm like, he's like, you couldn't tell? I'm like, oh no, I was enjoying nature. I wasn't paying attention to what you're doing. So we've now been married for 5 years, so that's worked out too. But that was one of the things too, just we kind of treated it like, all these adventures were getting to know each other, and being adventure buddies. I think that's kind of one of the great things is we can now kind of check that off, and we reminisce about it all the time, or I do, I guess. Like, oh, remember that park? Wasn't that great? Remember when this happened? So just something that makes us close. We did end up starting a blog, and you can see it there. So again, that whole state park crawl. We didn't finish it. Blog's kind of a lot of work. Because you got the adrenaline of doing everything, and you've got your pictures, and then you have to kind of put it into words, what you experienced. Wes, my husband, is the wordsmith in our family, so he would do a lot of the writing. I just take the cool pictures, so it worked out. We do have a few still more to go to finish up, but feel free. But yep, and I love this picture because my eyes are closed. I was like, this is the best I can do, but just in the moment. So that was definitely something that I'll remember forever. Okay, so Copper Falls State Park, has anyone been to Copper Falls State Park? All right, beautiful, beautiful. One of the things that I hate about living in southern Wisconsin is that the north is so far, because I'm a north girl, right? So I'm used to like this being a 2-hour drive, and it's like a 5+ hour drive. So this was our first camping trip that we ended up doing together as a couple. It's Copper Falls, so really testing the relationship. A 5.5 hour drive, then you gotta unpack, set up camp, and we tent camp. We don't do the RV thing, not yet anyway. So we were at Copper Falls State Park, and this was the next morning, so we got there late in the afternoon. Wes is reading the map because he's a map nerd. So you have to get up to this lookout tower, and you have to climb up kind of a set of different stairs to get there, besides getting up these stairs. And so as we climbed up, saw the views, it was great. And as we were coming down back onto the trail, there's a porcupine. And of course, the first thing we do is not like freak out. We're just like, oh, and then we both take out our phones to get a photo. That's the first thing we do. So we're like, okay, well, that's great, but as you can see there, that's the stairway that we need to go to get down back onto the trail to the right there. So we're kind of approaching it, not, like running after it, but like kind of slowly approaching. And I said, porcupines like shoot their quills, right? And Wes goes, yeah. And I'm like, okay, these stairs are open stairs, right? So they're just open underneath them. And there's probably 3 or 4 kind of landings that we have to go down to get to the main trail. And I said, what are we going to do? Because this porcupine is in front of us, and it's kind of following those stairs down. So we got to that first area there, and we're like, okay, we're gonna count to 3, and then we're gonna just rush down to the next landing, and then we'll stop and see where it's at, and then we'll kind of keep doing that. So we get to the first, and we do 3, 2, 1, and then we run down and get to the landing. Where did it go? It's definitely underneath where we are. It's following us now. And so in the back of my head, I'm like, oh great, it's the first day, like full day we're here. I'm gonna get porcupine quills in the back of my calves because I'm just imagining it like being underneath the stairs and just being like shooting its quills out. So we do this about 3 more times, and then we finally get onto the trail. No one is stuck with quills. And we're like, all right, man, that was crazy. And I said, I'm like, so yeah, the whole quill thing, right? And Wes goes, I think the whole shooting the quills is from a video game. And I said, okay, so yes, porcupines don't just shoot their quills out like randomly like some some gun. So you have to be fairly close to them, and they just kind of expand, and then we'll release them, but it's not like a target practice like I was envisioning in my head. So again, some of those kind of memories and things that you experience out there that you won't get anywhere else. This is at Potawatomi State Park. Has anyone been to Potawatomi State Park in Door County? A lot of people. Awesome. Kind of one of the unsung heroes of the Door County State Parks. It's the most southern in Sturgeon Bay. Everyone goes to Peninsula. Love it. Great. Potawatomi. So we started camping at these further away, which again seems further away when you're in the south. And every single camping trip, it'd be one full day where it would just rain all day long. So we got used to it, except for when we went to Potawatomi State Park. It was beautiful and clear the entire time, even at night. So we didn't even have to put the rain fly on our tent. So that's the picture of our tent. Actually, the Ice Age Trail runs right along the site that we had, which is really cool. But yeah, just kind of one of those things, memories of just like, remember the time when we didn't have to put the rain fly on and we could just stare up at the stars, and yeah, so, but yeah, it always would rain. So we'll get to planning. So I think I talked to a couple people who've done some state park trips before, and I wanted to kind of make this accessible to people who maybe they're just going to start out doing some, learn from myself. You can skip kind of the learning curve of what you need to do. So the website, and obviously if you had some of the Out We Go things, it's got the website on there, but this is kind of the holy grail of information is the website. So we're talking about auctioning off the raffle of the state park sticker. So state park sticker are we all Wisconsin license plates here? No Illinois or anything else? Good, so you're all eligible for the one I got, great. So it's $28, and that's the entire year. And so most people who don't kind of do the state park thing, they're like, wait, I say, yeah, the entire year. So daily rates can range from $7 to $13, depending on what park you go to. So $28 for an entire calendar year is great. Out of state is $38, pay a little more, support us more. And then the DNR has actually started this program with library rentals where you can, with your library card, you can rent a day pass, basically. Unfortunately, I looked it up. Hedberg is not a part of the program. It's only Milton and Edgerton. So I was kind of surprised by that, and even that Beloit wasn't on there. But the website's going to have maps and trail descriptions, recreation activities. How many miles of trails are there? Can I go kayaking? Is there a boat rental? Camping reservations, and then nature programs and events. All right, so kind of planning number 2. So again, we got our state park stickers. Yeah. Also, anyone makes great gifts. If anyone's listening, my birthday's on Saturday. I already have mine. But our parents, it's always so weird. Our parents are like, oh, you guys are so hard, like for Christmas, like to shop for. And I'm like, are you joking? Give us a state park sticker. We're going to have to get them anyway. Like that would just alleviates us from having to do it. So mom and dad, if you're listening at home, state park stickers for Christmas. And they do make great gifts and encourages your family and friends to get out. So yeah, day trips versus camping trips. Obviously, depending on where you want to go. My rule of thumb is that however long it takes me to get there, I'm gonna stay at that park for that long. So if it takes me 2 hours to get there, I at least have to be in the park doing something for at least 2 hours. So it's always good to set like a goal or highlight activity. So a goal might be, depending on the park size, hiking certain trails, hiking all the trails maybe, depending on the size. If there's kayaking available, and some other kind of specific to the park. Print or download information. I know this is Earth Month and paper, and as I'm holding a piece of paper in my hand. But sometimes the park offices aren't open, and so they might not be able to get a map. And my nickname is Ranger Maryam. I'm not kidding, that's literally my nickname. And so I like being prepared before I go. So I like having a printout of the map, which you can get on the website, and having that with me in the car, having it in your pocket just as an extra copy. And sometimes, you know, if you're with someone else and they kind of are a map hog, you can just pull out your own and be like, I'm figuring out where we are. Or you can download it on your phone as well. The only thing, sometimes cell phone service is kind of rough out there. So, but pack plenty of food. I cannot stress this enough, snacks and water. I don't care if you think you're only gonna be doing 2 miles. That 2 miles might be the toughest 2 miles you have ever done. And you are famished at the end, or you feel like you're gonna pass out and you just don't. So always, always, always pack more than you need, because what's the worst thing you can do? Bring it home and eat it later, right? Bug spray and sunscreen. I learned through my state park travels that mosquito bites aren't supposed to last or like itch for longer than a week. That was new to me. I must have some reaction with my skin. I thought, oh man, I get a mosquito bite and I'm itching those for at least a week. So always have bug spray, also ticks, just always have it. So what we've learned in our travels is each of one of our cars is equipped with a thing of bug spray and sunscreen at all times, so that we don't have to think about it. If it's like a last minute after work thing, we just get in the car and we have it. Phone chargers, and then the rule, carry in, carry out. Just making sure that whatever you're bringing, you're taking with you. All right, park rangers are your friends. That is a very true statement. Park rangers love what they do. You're in their space, they take care of that space, they're the stewards of that land, and they love to share it with people. So always make that your first stop. Another reason to make it your first stop, especially if you've been traveling a lot, it might be the only place where there's flush toilets. So there's a hot tip for you. But make that your first stop. The rangers are there. Ask questions. They love to interact, ask where you're from. Why are you at the park today? Can I help you? I always ask, hey, if you were here for a certain amount of time, what is it that you would see, or which trail would you go on? They're also a great resource for trail conditions. So again, the website is kind of that kind of Bible of sorts, but trail conditions can change even from the night before to the day. So they can tell you if a trail is closed, if it's muddy, things like that. Also park merch. Who doesn't love park merch? So we started with getting a magnet from every single state park. The fridge looked kind of tacky after a while. And I was like, okay, let's, we had a Green Bay Packer tree is how we rolled. I know Green Packers, it might be a little sensitive for some people right now. But we switched that to a travel tree. So now what we started to do is to get ornaments from every place that we travel. So again, when we put our tree up every year, we can reminisce about, oh man, remember that time or that park? And so it's just better than the Packers, Travels are forever, Packers are not. So, and in this particular day at Newport State Park, oh, hold on. Is it good? Handheld? Are you guys awake? Is everyone awake? Otherwise, I can also project. Let's see. How's that? Oh, okay. So at this Newport State Park, again, in the Door County area, we did our normal stop in. They happened to be celebrating Smokey the Bear's birthday. So we got a picture of Smokey the Bear, and they even had cake. So we got to do that all before hiking. So again, stop at the state park first in the office, talk to your rangers. Smaller parks need our love and support too. So everyone knows Devil's Lake, Peninsula, they're beautiful, they're great. But it's those smaller ones that are about maybe 20 minutes in the circumference that I think really shine. So I'm going to give you a few of them here. This one I was very reluctant to share with you because this is my favorite. But again, I need to share the things that I like too. So Nelson Dewey, we'll call it the stepsister of Wyalusing. So everyone knows Wyalusing State Park. So Wyalusing is just north of Nelson Dewey. It overlooks the Mississippi River from a 500-foot bluff. At this park, you combine your interest in history with your enjoyment of the outdoors. Camp, hike, and picnic above the mighty Mississippi, as you see here. Named for Wisconsin's first governor, Nelson Dewey, the park offers rich history featuring the Dewey home and the nearby Stonefield Historic Site. And there you can kind of see the Stonefield Historic Site. This is actually we now do an annual trip every year because this is one of our favorite state parks. This is a walk-in site, and this is our view from our campsite. So it's a 180-degree view of the Mississippi. It's stunning. Again, I didn't want to share it, but it's beautiful. You should go and camp there. Okay, Amnican Falls State Park is a stepsister to Pattison. So Pattison has the largest waterfall. So Amnican Falls is about 7 miles east of the Superior limits. Features a series of delightful waterfalls and rapids along the Amnican River. You can view them from a covered footbridge or 2 miles of trails along the river. The park is a place to picnic, camp, walk in the woods, and learn about the Douglas Fault, the geological formation that created the falls. Again, pictures don't do things justice either, so. All right, so Russia Cree, the stepsister to Buckhorn. Buckhorn State Park was Russia Cree was established in 1948. It protects a 300-foot high rock outcropping and Native American petroglyphs and pictographs. The name Russia Cree comes from French words meaning screaming rock. The park has more than 6 miles of hiking trails. The stairway to the top of the 300-foot Russia Cree mound is one of the highlights of the park and offers spectacular views. The stairway is open from 6 a.m. to sunset, and the park also offers camping, picnicking, and fishing. And one of the things that I noticed when I was kind of putting this together, the smaller state parks, a lot of those smaller state parks have a historical significance to Wisconsin. So that's especially with our native people, which is very interesting and very cool. And again, I think we should be supporting those. Ashland, has anyone been to Ashland? This one's kind of on its own. Yep, in Lake Mills, great. So it's a National Historic Landmark. It contains one of Wisconsin's most important archaeological sites, showcasing the ancient middle Mississippian village that thrived between a 300-year period between 1000 and 1300 AD. The people who settled here built large, flat-top pyramidal mounds and a stockade around their village. Portions of the stockade and 2 mounds have been reconstructed in the park, as you can see here. Council grounds, and it's the stepchild to, or stepsister to, Rib Mountain. Again, so as you can see, we went in fall. So Council Grounds is located along the beautiful Wisconsin River near the site of Native American encampments and is a favorite for water enthusiasts. The park offers many recreational opportunities, including family and group campsites, wooded trails, a beach area, and accessible fishing pier. A boat landing offers access to the Lake Alexander and the Wisconsin River. So again, I'll go back. My tree-loving husband getting a picture next to a tree, as usual. But yeah, so everyone goes to kind of Rib Mountain and they ride the ski lifts and see the colors, but I thought this was a beautiful way. It's more peaceful, less people. Again, you want to see people out, but sometimes you don't when you're out in nature. You want to be by yourself. All right, tip number 4, connect with your local organizations. So this is a perfect highlight of what we're here today and the people who are out in the lobby. So thank you all for being here, the people who are out in the lobby. Ice Age Trail Alliance, shout out to the Rock County chapter. There's also state park friends groups. Each state park has their own friends group, and they will do different activities, host events, things like that you can get involved in. It's a volunteer organization. And then there's Facebook groups. So I belong to all of those, but these Facebook groups are really helpful, especially when you're starting out. A lot of people are on there who will post pictures of their hikes and what they've done to get you inspired, and then asking questions. And there's a lot of times I'd like, oh, hey, how is this trail? Or we're gonna go here this afternoon. Can you tell me like what's kind of the highlights, especially during the pandemic when park rangers weren't around? So definitely a resource. Wisconsin State Parks Facebook group, Women Hiking Wisconsin, Hiking in Wisconsin, and the Ice Age Trail. All very informative. People are super friendly, and I will try not to tell you that one of the things you're talking about is a state rec area, not a state park. I try not to correct people, but. And then track your journey. So as we did kind of a blog and kind of did it on social media. There's a thing called 52 Hike Challenge, which I found out years after we did this, but they have printables and you can kind of take the challenge. So basically once a week doing a hike. I think I have a friend here who is currently doing that. Map My Fitness app, it's also a safety feature. When I would hike alone, which wasn't a whole lot, I would make sure it tracks kind of your movements. So just in case something were to happen, Wes can see where I am on that map. Same with like if you have like an Apple Watch or something. It's always good to tell someone where you're going, especially if you're going by yourself, what trails you're gonna be on. Again, making connections with the park rangers so they can keep an eye out. And then the state park checklist. Did you get the handout? I think Bob had a handout. There should be a state park checklist in there. If you want another one or want to make it bigger, just let me know and we can get you a PDF copy and you can print it yourself. And then get out and adventure. So obviously that's the point of this talk. I've learned a lot about myself in nature, obviously again from being a kid, exploring Fossil Islands and Bayfields and having those experiences and being blessed that I was able to, as a person of color, be in those spaces. Those experiences, again, like travel, no one can ever take that away from you. So you think of all the possessions that you have in your house, and God forbid if your house burns down, those things are gone. But with travel, you have those memories, you have those experiences, those will never leave you. So I just want you to get out and adventure. Again, state park sticker, make sure you enter for that raffle. But yeah, and also, I've got a few slides here. So how we documented our trip was that we get a picture in front of every single sign. And as I was going through, and I'll start this real quick here before we do a Q&A. As I was going through this, I said, man, this is literally a time capsule of all my hairstyles, all my hair colors, and all of the different types of glasses that I've had in those like 2.5 years. So, yeah, we can open it up for questions. I think, right, we're on time for that? You got time for that? We're good? Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a place not too far from here where the water is clear to see to the bottom of your tube?
Well, okay. So around here, no. Again, I'm spoiled in the sense that like Lake Superior, Lake Superior and pools are the only two bodies of water I will put myself in. Does anyone have anything that they know of around here that you can see clear? Obviously, Lake Superior you can.
Catfish Creek. Catfish Creek.
How far is that from here?
It's about 15 to 20 miles west of here to the village of Cooksville.
Cooksville, okay. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
So as we get more state parks, like every couple of years we get a new state park, are you and your husband going to continue trying to get all the weird ones? Because then you will never be able to die, because they're always every year.
Yeah, so the question is, they add a new state park. It's actually fairly rare. They just added one over the last year, I believe, Lizard Mound, and that's been one of the newer ones that they've added. So now it is on my list, and I'm like, I just presented on something that's kind of not true anymore. Like, we haven't been to all the state parks. So we will eventually go to that one. The bad thing is national parks. So that's kind of our next goal, but that's like a lifetime goal. There's way too many of those to get through.
As long as they have a sign, we'll go.
Yeah, it says state park, state park. Also, I don't know how many of you know Mark Dwyer. Probably a lot of you, absolutely. So when we would post these photos, he would always heckle me and us, well, me mostly, because we would have to perfectly get our heads and the sign, like the full sign. So we'd always critique, like, Maryam, you could have done better. I can't see the Russia, you can only see the Russia. Where's the rest of it? This one, I think he was proud of. We got most of the sign. I think I remember him complimenting us for that. Any other questions? I saw them over here.
How was getting reservations during the prime summer months at the state parks?
For camping? So the questions about reservations during kind of the prime season, summer, for camping reservations. It's tough. We plan ours usually after the beginning of the year. So kind of January when we're sick of being inside. But you can do it, it's 11 months out from the date that you want. You can reserve those spots 11 months out.
Mm-hmm. So you can't do some last minute, let's go this weekend and it's too.
You know what, actually, those Facebook groups, that Wisconsin Park State Facebook group, there's a lot of people who be like, hey, we can't make it for this site at this state park. We're gonna release it in 10 minutes, so if you want it, use it. So you can definitely kind of get in on those, but definitely during those high, like summer months, it's usually not worth it to just show up to a park. So, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that people should check the library system for different types of backpacks. So in Dane County, for example, you can get birding backpacks that come complete with binoculars and bird books and all of that. There's an Ice Age trail backpack, I can't remember where. So just keep checking, because I think this is becoming a thing where you can check these out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's with our library system, backpacks you can check out for different activities, birding, things like that. I think, you know, one of the silver linings, and I think there are a lot of them of the pandemic, was that people wanted to get out. They wanted to see nature. And so I think these are kind of programs that have resulted from that. Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Yes, comment.
The cost for a state park sticker for a senior is $13.
Okay, so the cost for a state park sticker for seniors is $13, and that's in state. Mm-hmm. So probably $10 more, maybe $23 then for if you're out of state plates. Yeah.
Something that's kind of fun is the passport that the national parks do.
Mm-hmm.
Does the state have anything like that? That is so much fun.
They are fun. So she asked, so the national parks do a state park stamp book, which we do have ours. The state parks, they kind of had one, and but it was very inconsistent. Not every single park had one. They weren't supplied at each state park. I couldn't just buy one with my park merch. So we just, yeah, I wish they did, and I think a lot of people would enjoy that, but maybe in time, maybe we write some letters, send some emails, or fork up some money like my husband just said. He just went like this to me, okay. Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
If you ever decide not to tent camp anymore, teardrop camping trip.
Yeah, so the comment is yes, if I don't want to do the tent camping anymore, teardrop. For sure, the only thing, I'm very particular, this is a rule with our tent, because we're obnoxious and we're 2 people and we have like a 10-person tent, is I have to fully stand up in it, like to put like my clothes and things on. I'm in nature already, like I just need to be able to stand. But yes, that would be great to do. Yeah.
The step after that is 1-800-RAMADA.
and which you can do, absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Awesome, thank you so much.
They're twins.
Okay. Dennis James helped people walk right into nature. He has been volunteering on the Ice Age Trail in Rock County since 2010, and he has been the coordinator for the Rock County chapter of the Ice Age Trail since 2014. He is passionate about working on the trails in Rock County alongside fellow volunteers to improve them for the benefit of everybody. Special projects he is working on this year are improving 100-year-old parts of Devil's Staircase Trail and seeing the National Park Service Rock County Corridor Plan get implemented. Dennis is also the current president of the Friends of Rock County Parks and has been instrumental in creating the new Friends of Rock River Heritage Park. He has recently been appointed to the Janesville Parks and Recreation Committee. Please welcome Dennis James.
Thank you. So is the mic on? Okay. So I'm Dennis James, and I'm retired, and I have nothing better to do than work in trails. So the Ice Age, Ice Age National Scenic Trail, the Ice Age really is what formed our trails, informed them. Different timelines, but 25,000 to 21,000 years ago was the maximum ice in the northern hemisphere, but also in Wisconsin, Johnstown Moraine. The thing ended about 11,000 years ago. And then humans began moving into Wisconsin about 11,000 years ago as well, and doing, throwing a plug in for Rick Steves, doing a Rick Steves tour, 7 of them, Maryam. But in Stockholm, Sweden, them talking about the Earth still lifting a few, millimeters every decade from that last glacier. And, in the far northern hemisphere, it was 2 miles thick. At Green Bay, it was 1 mile thick. So think about that and the compression. These are the Superior Lobe, Chippewa Lobe, Green Bay Lobe, Johnstown Moraine here, Janesville here. The driftless area is a place, in Wisconsin that was not glaciated in the last couple glaciation periods. This area up here was glaciated earlier, but the driftless area is really a place that didn't get glaciated earlier as well. And so a lot of times we start talking about the trail in Rock County, we talk in Wisconsin, with this last glacier. And so you're hearing something new for me, is really what created all of this for us to say what is so unique about Wisconsin, to hear them in Stockholm, Sweden say the Wisconsin glaciation period, okay, in the northern hemisphere. I mean, it has other names, but they talked about the Wisconsin glaciation. There's a geological time scale. And here's the Ordovician time scale, and it's the pink. Paleozoic seas advance and retreat, depositing many layers of sedimentary rock. So Ordovician. You see that the last glacier departs. Glaciers have shaped the land. The driftless area remains untouched. And then 10 million years ago, Wisconsin has moved into its present location. And prior to that, hundreds of millions of years ago, it was in the southern hemisphere. So it was slowly drifting north. So here's that geological time scale again. The further north you go in Wisconsin, the older the rocks get. So here's kind of, there's the Wisconsin Dome. Lake Superior was very, very deep. As the glaciers came across, that they slowed, they diverted. So these older rock formations informed basically how that glacier was going to come down into Wisconsin, into creating the dunes in Indiana and Ohio, the dunes in Michigan, the Great Lakes were essentially formed by the glaciers. And I just heard recently that they don't think, people are starting to say, kind of like, some of the planets, is it really a planet or is it a planetoid? There are some people that say that Lake Superior is actually an inland sea, and because it's so big and so deep and so clear. But you look at this, and here's the Ordovician. Did I say that right? And here's southern Wisconsin, and here's Rock County. That Wisconsin dome, that higher landform, an older landform, are what kind of created the breaks in the glacier to create these different lobes. And we're part of that Green Bay lobe, and I'll cover that in just a second too. So here's kind of where the end of the glaciers were in a lot of the, and they would come back, the farthest glaciation period, and then they'd retreat, and then they'd come back a little bit more. So in Rock County, we have the Johnstown moraine, and we have the Milton moraine. And the next one is Lake Mills, a little bit further north. So you can see that these these drop-off points kind of created where they eventually decided the Ice Age trail would go. And we just heard this last weekend that there were, we credit, and I'll talk about that, 1958 as being when the, kind of the Ice Age trail started to become a reality, but it might have gone back as far as 1923, where there was a group of students who talked about it, and Ray Zillmer was apparently part of that group of students. And so here's the deposits. So here's all those deposits, and that was that sedimentary rock that was being pushed and scraped. Up through the Fox Valley area, there was copper that was pushed down from the Upper Peninsula and Canada. And so there was a copper culture up there as well. Just another bedrock kind of thing, but this pink for us. And then in Rock County, we have a couple of really unique features. And one of them is one of them was an ice tunnel, and an ice tunnel is essentially a river of water under the glacier or coming out of the glacier. So under the glacier, where it's dropping all of those deposits, is called an esker. And then the ice tunnel is just going to do sand and gravel sediments. And for those of you that are kind of good with maps, there was an outwash area here. This is Highway 26. Okay, Milton up here. Here's the trail as it came down. So this is a little bit better view of that. This is the rail trail that goes up to Milton through here. And there was a tunnel channel that came out right there. This is no longer, this is an older picture, but this is a quarry now. So you've got all of this sand and gravel being scraped and then pushed out. Further south of that's Janesville Sand and Gravel. Further south of that is Atlas Pit and now Kiwanis Pond and Lions Beach. Okay, all being filled in from this scraping and then this outwash tunnel. So we've got all these quarries going kind of in a line south. Most of you are probably familiar with where Rotary Gardens is. That's used to be the Rock River, and it got filled in, and then the Rock River moved. So it's just a different view of that. And then, that's what gave us that underlying sedimentary rock is what gave us beautiful artesian wells in Rock County. And there used to be two at Riverside Park. There used to be one up near the North Pavilion, and then there's still the one down at near the South Pavilion that kind of got screwed up a long time ago by Rock River plating. So that's kind of the geological, and we could probably talk hours on that. But then I also wanted to talk about the Ice Age Trail and the Ice Age Trail Alliance and why that then started to happen. So it's a 1,200-mile footpath. You'll see it always advertised as a 1,000-mile footpath because that's what they envisioned it initially. That's going to highlight those very unique glacial features that are in Rock County and in the state. going through some of these very, natural, beautiful areas. This is a picture of the Devil's Staircase Trail, one of the more favored trails. And yesterday morning, a couple of us were at the Devil's Staircase Trail and in Arbor Ridge, and we had a young lady from over by Milwaukee walk by and say, "I just found my new favorite part of the trail." And she had just hiked the Devil's Staircase Trail. And she hadn't even been into Arbor Ridge yet, so I'm like, whoa, wait until you get there. But it's entirely in Wisconsin, and it's one of 11 national scenic trails. So we are, after a number of years, we are kind of on the to-do list for through hikers that have done the Appalachian, who've done the Pacific Crest. And this summer, a young lady completed the Ice Age Trail, and she's done all 11 national scenic trails. And what was kind of unique about that as well? I mean, we had Emily Ford go through in the wintertime with digging the husky or the sled dog. Is this woman did all 11 national scenic trails in a dress. So the Ice Age Trail was established in 1980 with an act of Congress by Henry Royce, and he's got a really great book on the trail of the Ice Age. But they really date to the 1950s, and again, probably to the 1923 by kind of a DNR trail historian, geologist. And it was the Ice Age Park and Trail Foundation, and we have people in this room that actually have the T-shirt from when it was the foundation. Then it became the Ice Age Trail Alliance. And it's really to establish a national park in Wisconsin, running that route, and then going up through the Kettles and the Moraines up to Potawatomi State Park. Kind of following that, we're kind of figuring out one thing is that one of the things in Rock County, we know we have Kettles and we have moraines. We have an ice tunnel is just north of Bowers Lake Road. We might have a small esker. So a geologist this summer is actually going to check that out and see if that short section, there's homes built on it, but that might be an esker. So it's like score. And next 2024, the Ice Age Trail will actually go past that. So our trail in Rock County will go past an esker as well, I'm hoping. 1979 was the first through hiker, did the entire Ice Age Trail, and I think, Dean, you guys, what are we, over 200 now? Section hikers and through hikers, or is it higher than that? 480 have completed it, not all of them through hikers. Again, mentioned Emily Ford, she did it in the wintertime with and that was in the middle of COVID. So we had some bitterly cold days during that, and she was, because she's, works during the summer. And so she didn't want to be in your house. She stayed in people's garages with a dog. Because it was going to be warmer than outside, but it was still going to be cold. So some facts about the trail. It's a partnership with the National Park Service, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and the Wisconsin Communities, and the Ice Age Trail Alliance. So it's a partnership thing. Right now, about 650 miles are yellow blaze trail segments, with another 450 miles of unmarked connected routes. In Rock County, we have about 22 miles that are marked and blazed, and we have the rest of it's road walks. But this year we're changing that. Gibbs Lake is now part of our trail, and Evansville will be fairly shortly be blazed and part of our trail. So we'll be adding mileage very quickly, and I'll get into that here. The trail's western terminus is in Interstate Park in St. Croix Falls, Polk County. I have a cousin who lives there who had never heard of the trail. I said, "How long have you lived there?" 30 years. Her husband goes, "She doesn't pay attention." So I'm like, okay, because he knew it and hiked it. And he said, "I tell her where I'm going and she never pays attention." But the trail's eastern terminus is in Potawatomi State Park in Sturgeon Bay, and they're just changing that inside the park to a new location. for the terminus, so that it actually looks out over on Green Bay. And then the Ice Age Trail is largely maintained by volunteers and constructed by volunteers. So in Janesville and in Rock County, most of the trail fits a hiker's idea of what a trail is. It's wooded, there's going to be wildlife. You go out to Arbor Ridge, you're going to see deer, you're going to see wild turkey, you're going to see rabbits, you're going to see squirrels, besides some of the hikers that are out there that are squirrely, but actually it's usually fourth graders. And there's a story behind that too, but I won't tell it right now. But it's an off-road hiking experience. Janesville, however, we've got Arbor Ridge, we've got Storrs Lake Wildlife Area, we've got the longest urban hike along the trail in Janesville and then into Milton, okay? And Henry Royce wanted the trail to come through Janesville and have that as the southernmost point of the trail. So that's, we can thank. And then we've got a couple of, we've got Tom Presney from the city parks that was working with Henry Royce at the time, and Tom Kautz with county parks that made a lot of that happen very quickly. Right down Main Street communities by design. Plus if you're a through hiker, you need resources periodically. If you're a section hiker, you come, you do the section hike. You're going to be in those communities. You want to visit the shops and you want to visit the stores. You want to eat at. We want people to eat at the restaurants, etc. We had some through hikers that were veterans, two women that were veterans a number of years ago. They stopped at Carousel Consignment, bought a whole bunch of stuff. They stopped at Rotary Gardens and did the Rotary Gardens tour and bought a whole bunch of stuff. Then they stayed overnight at my house, and I'm like, so you're not backpacking with this, what do you want to do with this? Well, we wanted to ask you, we were afraid, can we go to the post office in the morning and mail all of this stuff? They spent 3 hours in Carousel Consignments. So imagine how much stuff that they had. It was a couple of good-sized boxes. Does coincide with state bike trails. Albany is on the Sugar River Trail over there. In Rock County, we're going to be eventually in Magnolia Bluff on the Janesville to Milton Trail off of Kennedy Road going all the way to Milton, an old rail trail. You might see horses on there, you'll see bicyclists on there, and then Gibbs Lake, you'll see horses as well. But typically, horseback riding is not permitted on the trail. So Rock County is very unique in that as well. 1950s, Ray Zillmer, lots of ownership types, private land, city parks, state parks, county forest, national forest. They never do eminent domain. It's people, you own a farm and you say, you know what, this edge of the farm, I'm going to give you 25 feet as an easement because it's wooded, and you know that the volunteers are going to create a good trail and they're going to keep it clear for you. And it travels through 31 counties. So you can see the trail map here. And this up north in Dane, northern Dane and Columbia County is years ago, one group of people wanted the trail to go this way and the other group of people wanted it to go this way. And now both of them, either one of them are official, but there are people that will do the bifurcation, some of those words. Talk maintenance, I'll talk all day. But anyway, some people will actually do both of them. They'll hike one, they'll get a ride and do the other one, even through hikers, just to say they could both do it. Both significant. There's volunteer chapters throughout all of this that share the treasure that we have. And so Rock County. Okay, so here's a couple of our volunteers. This one was actually a work day with Whitewater students. MAD, Make a Difference Day, a number of years ago, pre-COVID. I will say that this is actually the event when Dean said, we should have brought our mower too. And I said, now you tell me. In our next meeting, I said, we're not buying another piece of equipment until we have a trailer within 2 weeks, we had money for a trailer to help us with our trail stewardship days. We do a lot of trail stewardship days, and you can look at our board out there. You can sign up and be part of this. We do a lot of scheduled hikes, and we do a lot of unscheduled hikes too. But one of the programs we have is Walk Across Rock County. COVID saw a lot of people come out and do Walk Across Rock County. We do summer saunters, and that's through the school districts. That's third through fifth grades or sixth grade, and they do that here in Janesville School District, and they go out and hike. You know, these grade school students go out and however far they can go. So Southern Kettle Moraine, Devil's Lake, they hike. And it's what they can get out and get back in 8 hours. And then on Friday of that, they hike from the South Pavilion of Riverside Park over to the Education Center in the Janesville School Outdoor Lab, or Robert Cook Arboretum, and we give them a picnic lunch. Okay. Then there's mobile skills and crew leader training. You know, a lot of us that are longtime volunteers go through this at the Alliance IATU. So we know how to build trails, we know how to maintain trails, we know how to handle invasives, that kind of thing. We get chainsaw certified, etc. And then there's trail communities. In Janesville and Milton are trail communities similar to what they do on the Appalachian or the Pacific Crest Trails. UW-Whitewater is a trail community in terms of a university. This summer sometime, Evansville will come on board as a trail community as well. And shortly after that, I mean, I've already been talking to the county board as well. Shortly after that, Rock County will come on board as a trail community. Okay? And by default, because UW-Whitewater is a trail community institution, URock here is, Rock County is a trail community as well. And then, you know, we're always doing reroutes in Rock County and trying to get it. Do I still have time? Yeah. One of the things that's been 30 years in the making, and I actually found the minutes of the meeting back in the 80s that said, you know, this corridor plan will be done within a year. Okay. It is out for public review right now. And you can find that link, you know, you can email me, or if you don't have the link, from April 11th to now May 12th. It was May 10th, but they had technical issues because there were so many people on the server on last Sunday looking at it. But you do a preferred corridor, and there was 4 corridors. They looked at, you know, what if we did the southern part of the county? What if we went straight across the middle part of the county? What if we did this? The one that made the most sense is coming over from Lima and Clover Valley, was coming down, you know, through Milton, through Janesville. The red is the existing trail, southernmost part of it. Back up through Fulton, Porter, down through Evansville, and then Magnolia out to Albany. That's our preferred corridor. So, you know, we feel, you know, part of that going up towards Gibbs Lake is going to be on the Milton Moraine. You know, if we go straight across on County A over to Albany, it can be very scenic, but it's all a lot of farmland. And getting trail would be very difficult. So this became our preferred corridor. They did, at my request, they did include the east side of the Rock River, but unfortunately, you know, it's unfeasible you know, because of the home ownership, the narrow road on South River Road or North River Road going up to Camp Indian Trails, the new Rock River Heritage Park. I said, but you know, we probably should include that because you never know. You know, 30 years down the road, some corridor may open up and go all the way up to Indian Ford, that we could do a trail up to Indian Ford as part of the Ice Age Trail, which is geologically, Indian Ford's geologically, archaeologically, and historically significant for a lot of the native tribes. And it's for me too, because when we first moved to Wisconsin from New Mexico, I caught my first fish at the Indian Ford Dam. Had never fished before. So this just shows you, you know, our current route for the trail. So then there's MSC projects, mobile skill crew projects, where they bring people from across the state and they do these projects. And this summer, so these are the ones that are happening this summer. Ribbs Lake, they've got a couple of them. These are major reroutes. In Sturgeon Bay, that's when they're going to change that endpoint for the current trail. Ski Hills, Storrs Lake Wildlife Area. Some of you that have hiked and might have heard it, is 2017 for about 4 years. The trail next to Bowers Lake was essentially flooded. And I'm here to tell you it never got to anybody's waist unless they were 3 foot tall. But it was 8 to 15 inches deep at times, depending. And part of that is that sedimentary bedrock. We've got a very shallow basement. So when it rained and it rained and it rained, and if you remember 2017, it started raining in February. And it seemed like every time we turned around, we were getting 6 inches, 8 inches of rain in a 1 to 2 hour period. So Bowers Lake and Storrs Lake have no outlets except through the marsh and over, in Bowers Lake case, to Otter Creek, which feeds into, but it wasn't draining fast enough. So we've got a $100,000 grant from the National Park Service to put in boardwalk in that area so that when it floods again, people can take that trail and go past that marsh and go up over the Milton Moraine instead of having to go around and missing the Milton Moraine with its beautiful kettles. And if you've never hiked that portion of the trail, at Storrs Lake, you need to. So that's our Storrs Lake hike. To show you how passionate the volunteers are, we were told last fall and then reiterated, through early winter and part of the winter, is the most we want on this project is 20 to 25 people because it's just one thing. So this last Saturday, we had a meeting with the Alliance staff, and he said, well, so how have you been promoting this? And I said, I sent out one email. I said, what are the numbers? And it's still, registration's still open. 21 day on Wednesday, 23 people on Thursday, 19 people on Friday, 32 people on Saturday. It's like, I said, so how much do you really want me to promote it anymore? Because we know that we're going to have people that aren't going to be signing up. They're experts in boardwalk building. They're going to be coming over. They're going, it's like the volunteers are passionate about this. So this is in the Storrs Lake area. This is before 2015 project that took this up over the Milton Moraine. So you can see the foliage, you can see that's very near one of the trailheads. And this is what we're going to be doing. This is in Storrs Lake, going over a slightly muddy area at times, but this is what boardwalk looks like, and so that will give people access. One of the things that I heard when I first started volunteering in the early 2010s was the hunters hate us in Storrs Lake. Well, now they love us because we actually have opened up trail that allows them to get in more easily to their stands that they might put up, et cetera. Okay. And this is us cutting through, where that trail goes. So you can see what the foliage was around that. And this took 3 crews of sawyers. So this is me, and this is Bob Baker, a longtime volunteer. But it took 3 crews of sawyers to cut through about 150 foot of heavily wooded area. I think we had over 400 volunteers in that 2015 project over 4.5 days. Okay, and then one of the things we do is it's always about safety for us. This is not me. But it is about safety for us. We are always, to cut a tree, you've got to be a certified sawyer, but it is about safety for everybody. And the only injury report that I know that's ever been filed, that's ever been filed in Locke County was in 2015. Somebody got into some wild parsnip And to some extent, it was self-inflicted because she thought if she snapped it off, that she was killing him. And she didn't realize that the sap getting on her and then in the sun was going to cause burns. And that's a bad invasive. But we blaze trail, yellow blazes. Okay. Another thing that's going to be happening this summer is when the county is redoing County E, and some of you, if I say this is the danger curve, some of you might know what I'm talking about, because the County E used to go across here. This parking lot is in the county, but it's in the city. So every time I would want to do something there, when we went to put this kiosk that's down here in, I called the county and I said, we want to put this kiosk, which was donated by Rotary Garden, Mark Dwyer. And they said, well, you got to talk to the city. I talked to the city and they said, you got to talk to the county. And I said, okay, here's both of you, this is what we're going to do. Both of them then got involved and told us where we could site it. Oh, come on now. Where we could site it. Starting May 5th, the county's redoing County E, and they're going to level and pave this parking lot for us. So we're very happy about that. I've seen 50 cars trying to park in here at one time. 2 Octobers ago, I was on the Devil's Staircase Trail, and I had, in a 15-minute period, I had 130 hikers walk past me. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sunday afternoon. 130 hikers go by me, in the middle of COVID. This is the actual Devil's Staircase. I am here to tell you that the steps from the Northern Pavilion in Riverside Park in Janesville is not the Devil's Staircase. We have people from Illinois, from Chicago, that thinks those 39 steps are the Devil's Staircase. This is the actual, but this is a geological formation that goes up to the golf course here. And this is city crew and our volunteers working on it that day. So we have some hikes. The first one I'm going to mention is actually, I didn't put it on here, I'm sorry, Bob, but I'll mention it, is this Saturday from 1:30 to finish. We meet at the, very much like the National Trails Day on June 3rd, we meet at the North Pavilion of Riverside Park. We'll hike to through the Devil's Staircase Trail, through the Arbor Ridge Trail to the cabin in the Janesville School Outdoor Lab, which will be open for people to see, how people lived, in the 1800s. And I will tell you that my the cabin my mother lived in actually had 2 full floors, but the square footage on the ground floor was what they lived in, 10 kids, and both parents. And then my mom, one time said, and sometimes the animals if it was real cold. But that's this Saturday.
It's the 6th, and you have to sign up by the 3rd.
No, I'm not talking about yours yet.
This is the Riverside Park one.
But this is the UW Rock County Park hike this Saturday. There's another hike, I will mention that right now, it's a bird walk, a wildflower hike at Riverside Park, and Dave Benland's leading that, and you have to register by May 3rd. So there's a hike this Saturday at Riverside Park. There's a wildflower hike, next Saturday. I recommend that wildflower hike. We yesterday, members of our chapter made sure that the Devil's Staircase Trail was wide open and clean. And then this one is invitation only, but WCBVI is Wisconsin Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And this young man's led one hike, visually impaired, for a birding hike for, where did he do it? I can't remember where he did it, but he's going to be leading a bird hike at Janesville School Outdoor Lab for selected people. So we're going to be doing more hikes. In May 17th to August 23rd, we start, which are Wednesday nights, meeting at 6 o'clock. We start our walk across Rock County where we host it. And we start near Albany this year. And we're going to have 2 blind teachers doing that hike with us all summer long. So we're really, trying to get involved in terms of, what does accessibility mean to people? And And I actually asked a couple of the students, is what could we do to make the trails more safe for people that are visually impaired or blind? And he said, signage. And I said, well, what about the trail tread and everything? And he said, we have to learn how to negotiate that if we're going to go to a state park and hike a trail that you haven't done a whole lot to it. You know, he said, we need to learn how to do that. And it's like, well, that's a pretty good perspective, I think. During that MSc project, we have a new volunteer who turned out to be a hydrologist. And I said, how would you like to lead a hydrology hike on the weekend that we're doing the MSc Boardwalk project? So she'll be leading that, and she'll be going across the new boardwalk, okay? And then the summer saunters. And then in October, they do a Mammoth Challenge. They started doing it 3 years ago when the Alliance in the trail was 40 years old, 1980 to 1920. They continue to do it. In 1980, or excuse me, in 2020, if you did 40 miles in October, you got a patch and a certificate. Here's the trick, is if you did 4 people that were doing the 40 miles, you only each needed to do 10 miles. Okay, and it's in trail communities, so it's coming through trail communities. We've not really done anything except promote. And that first year, they had thousands of people do it across the state. This year, we're going to be trying to do one downtown Janesville where we actually go and talk about all the murals that are downtown Janesville now. Okay. So we have, not on this, we have 2 hikes coming up, one this Saturday and then the wildflower hike on the 6th. Yep, that you have to sign up for by May 3rd at the Janesville trail benefits. Very quickly, come on. This is a few years old. They're redoing the study, but 1.25 million people do the Ice Age Trail year-round. Economically, more money is spent on silent sports in Wisconsin than are spent on motorized sports. But all we hear about is how much the motorized people spend. They spend a lot of money, but silent sports actually spends more money. It's about land protection. Am I going over? No. Land protection and management. And they regularly manage and monitor those properties. And then it's about youth education. Okay. I'll just quickly, so before I just read this and I liked it. It's Leonardo da Vinci, one of my favorite people, him and Nikola Tesla. When you put your hand in a flowing stream, you touch the last that has gone before, and the first is what is still to come. So when we're working on the trail, this is actually what's happening for us, especially with that new corridor plan coming into place, is we're working on what came before, but we're also creating something new for what comes after. So are there any questions or comments? And any one of these topics we could have talked to for about an hour. Carolyn.
A question about if we're on the trail and we come across either a blowdown, something across the trail, or something that needs to be reported, who do we report it to?
Good question. Is you can report it to us if it's along the trail. If it's in the city of Janesville, you could report it to us, but I would report it to the city parks people. Except if it's on the Devil's Staircase Trail or Arbor Ridge, JSOL, then we take care of it. The Janesville Trail, you could report it to the county parks, and a lot of times they'll just let us know, and we take care of that. But we have people that are walking these trails all the time that will let us know when a tree is down. And we've had some that, we just took care of some trees, and then 2 days later we have another windstorm and we have 4 more branches down that, and then we have members of our chapter that regularly walk these trails and either take care of them or let us know. That's one of the reasons we've got, our trails are so good. And we haven't had, fortunately, any of the blowdowns that they've had to the north or along the Kettle Moraine Trail where they've got hundreds of trees that come down in a windstorm. Fortunately, we've not had that. Any other questions? comments.
And maybe who are you, how do I contact about these hikes to the website, phone number or something?
You can contact me, and my business card is out there with the email address, and I can send you that link. Yep. And then if you want to get on, I do send out, in the summertime, I send out twice monthly, through the year, once a month, but in the summertime, I send out, this is what we're going to be doing this month for hikes, where we're going to meet, that kind of thing. And then I have a whole other list about trail stewardship, because not everybody wants to work on the trail, but they want to know what the hikes are and the basic information. So I could put you on that list, not the maintenance list, but the other list. And there is a sign-up sheet out at our table. But any other questions? This Saturday, in the morning from 9 to noon, we're doing our third annual trail cleanup for kind of May Day. So you're also invited to Palmer Park to the wading pool, and we divide people up and they go into different segments of the trail, not only the Ice Age Trail, but other trails in Janesville, depending on how many people we have show up, just to pick up trash, 1 to 2 hours. And it's the first time we did that, we had 7 pickup truck loads full of stuff, and now we get a dumpster. And I was really, it's one of those things that I was really gratified to see that much trash picked up, but I was also very disturbed that there was that much trash along the trails. And kind of philosophically, is if we can keep them picked up, people will pick up the individual pieces of trash that they might see. But if you have, like behind Sam's Club, we have people regularly have to spend hours in there cleaning it up because it blows out of their dumpsters. And somebody, there was one couple in here that just moved into that neighborhood, and I don't know what your experience is, in your yard yet from Sam's Club, but it's sad that people don't take care of their trash. Any other comments, questions? No, okay. Well, thank you.